Top financial officer of Donald Trump's company, Alan Weisselberg, did it again, pleaded guilty to felony perjury charges in a Manhattan courtroom earlier today. He admitted that he lied in sworn testimony when asked about allegations that Trump lied about his wealth during the ex-president's civil fraud trial. This is now Weisselberg's second guilty plea. In 2022, he pleaded guilty to multiple tax fraud charges and served 3 months at Riker. Today's guilty plea will put him behind bars again for up to 5 months. These new charges come just weeks before the ex-president is set to face trial on separate allegations that he falsified business records. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's criminal case. The New York Times lays out the implications of today's developments for that case, writing this quote, "Monday's guilty plea could strengthen Mr. Bragg's hand heading into trial." Okay, so let me just start by telling you about something absolutely explosive that happened in a New York courtroom. And it goes straight to the heart of everything Trump has been claiming about himself for decades. His own chief financial officer, the guy who knew where all the bodies were buried, who handled the books, who understood every single financial detail of Trump's empire, just admitted in court that he lied under oath to protect Trump. Alan Weisselberg pleaded guilty to perjury. He literally confessed that he committed a crime by lying on the witness stand about Trump's inflated financial statements. And now legal experts are asking the obvious question. If Trump's CFO was lying under oath to protect him, what does that say about Trump's own testimony? But before we go any further real quick, let's be honest here. You really cannot trust mainstream media anymore. And I think deep down you already know that. That's exactly why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and absolutely no corporate spin getting in the way of the truth. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines and actually understand what's happening instead of getting fed talking points, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every single day so you never miss anything important. Just click the link in the description to join, and it takes like 2 seconds. And if you just want to support what we're doing here and help us keep this going, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth and wants to cut through all the noise. All right, let's get back to the video. So explain the Times reporting today about how this strengthens Alvin Bragg's hands ahead of a criminal trial. Well, I think there's probably 2 components to that. One is Alan Weisselberg. You know, moving forward with this perjury charge really does send a message, a very loud one. It's actions, not words at you to other witnesses that you better not do this. And so I think that one thing. And I think going in Alan Weisselberg knows a lot about the hush money payment. We know that he had discussions with Michael Cohen, who's another key witness in the case, about how to structure this payment so that it didn't look like what it was. And Alan Weisselberg has been an uncooperative witness. So I think if they couldn't get him to cooperate, they want to discredit him. So here's what happened with Weisselberg and why it matters so much for understanding Trump's legal exposure. In March 2024, Alan Weisselberg, Trump's longtime chief financial officer, who worked for the Trump Organization for decades, stood in a New York courtroom and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of perjury. He admitted that he lied under oath about Trump's inflated asset values. He admitted that he lied on the witness stand during Trump's civil fraud trial about financial statements that were used with banks and insurers. This is Trump's money guy confessing that he committed crimes by lying in court to make Trump look richer than he actually was. That's not speculation. That's not a political accusation. That's a guilty plea in open court. But Weisselberg agreed to serve 5 months in jail for his perjury. 5 months behind bars because he lied under oath about Trump's finances. And here's the thing that should really make you sit up and pay attention. Weisselberg didn't do this for his own benefit. He lied to protect Trump's inflated wealth story. He lied to boost Trump's image and borrowing power. He lied because that's apparently what you had to do if you wanted to be part of Trump's inner circle. The culture around Trump was so focused on maintaining this fiction about his wealth that his own CFO committed crimes to keep the story going. Now, let's talk about Trump himself, because this is where things get really interesting and potentially devastating for him. Legal analysts have been going through Trump's history under oath, all the depositions, all the trial testimony, all the sworn statements he's made over the years, and they keep finding the same pattern. Trump says things under oath that don't match up with documents. Trump makes claims about his wealth and his business deals and his knowledge of key facts that contradict what the records actually show. Judges have openly questioned his truthfulness. Fact-checkers have cataloged discrepancies, and now his own CFO has admitted that lying under oath about Trump's finances was part of the job. The perjury exposure Trump faces is serious because, unlike some of the other charges swirling around him, this one is easy for everyone to understand. Perjury means you lied under oath. That's it. You raised your right hand and swore to tell the truth, and then you didn't tell the truth. If prosecutors can prove that Trump knowingly gave false testimony in any of these proceedings, he could face criminal charges that carry real prison time, not just fines, not just civil penalties, but actual years behind bars. And with Weisselberg already pleading guilty to perjury for lies, he told to protect Trump. The precedent is set. The door is open. This story cuts directly at one of Trump's most powerful political assets, his brand, as someone who tells it like it is. His supporters believe Trump is honest with them, even when it's crude or offensive or politically incorrect. But what we're seeing in the courts is a very different picture. We're seeing a culture of lying under oath built up around Trump's financial empire. We're seeing his closest associates admitting they committed crimes by giving false testimony. We're seeing judges express skepticism about whether Trump's own sworn statements can be trusted. The guy who claims to always tell it like it is apparently runs an organization where lying in court was standard operating procedure. This is a story that explains so much about Trump's legal problems and why they keep multiplying. It's not just that he's facing charges on multiple fronts. It's at the foundation of his entire public image, his claimed wealth, his business success. His straight-talking authenticity may be built on testimony that falls apart the moment anyone looks at it closely. Let's break down what this all means. All right, so to really understand what's happening here, we need to go deep on the Weisselberg situation because it tells you everything about how Trump's organization operated and why his legal exposure is so serious. Alan Weisselberg wasn't some random employee who happened to get caught lying. He was the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization for decades. He knew every detail of Trump's finances. He prepared the financial statements. He worked on the tax returns. If there was anyone in Trump's world who understood the truth about his wealth and his business dealings, it was Alan Weisselberg. And that guy just admitted in court that he committed perjury to protect Trump. Let me walk you through what Weisselberg actually pleaded guilty to because the details are damning. He admitted to 2 counts of perjury related to Trump's New York civil fraud case. Specifically, he admitted that he lied under oath about Trump's inflated asset values, the financial statements that Trump used to make himself look richer than he actually was, so he could get better deals from banks and insurance companies. Weisselberg also admitted that he lied on the witness stand during Trump's civil fraud trial itself. So, this wasn't just some deposition lie that happened years ago. This was Weisselberg getting up on the stand during an active trial and lying to the court about the financial statements at the center of the case. The agreement called for Weisselberg to serve 5 months in jail. That's actual prison time for perjury. And remember, this was the second time Weisselberg faced criminal consequences for his work at the Trump Organization. He had previously pleaded guilty to tax fraud charges and served time for that as well. So Trump's longtime CFO has now been convicted of crimes twice, both times for conduct related to his wealth. For Trump, at some point you have to ask yourself, what kind of organization produces employees who keep committing crimes in the course of doing their jobs? The perjury that Weisselberg admitted to was directly tied to efforts to boost Trump's image and borrowing power. Let me explain what that means in practical terms. Trump's whole financial identity is built on the claim that he's incredibly wealthy, a billionaire many times over, one of the richest people in the country. That image of wealth isn't just about ego, although there's plenty of that. It's the foundation of his business model. When Trump goes to banks to borrow money or to insurance companies to get coverage, his perceived wealth affects the terms he gets. Richer people get better interest rates. More valuable properties get better insurance terms. So, there's a huge financial incentive to make yourself look as wealthy as possible on paper. What prosecutors showed in the civil fraud case and what Weisselberg's perjury plea confirms is that Trump's organization systematically inflated his asset values on financial statements. They claimed properties were worth more than they actually were. They made claims about the size and value of assets that didn't match reality. And when they got called on it in court, Weisselberg lied under oath to try to cover it up. He committed a crime, perjury, specifically to protect the fiction that Trump was as rich as he claimed to be. That's not spin or interpretation. That's what he admitted when he pleaded guilty. Now, Let's talk about Trump's own testimony because this is where the story gets even more explosive. Legal analysts and journalists have done deep dives into Trump's history of sworn testimony going back decades, and the pattern they found is remarkable. Over and over again, Trump makes claims under oath that turn out to be false or misleading when compared to documents and other evidence. He overstates his wealth. He understates his knowledge of shady dealings. He contradicts things he said in previous depositions. He makes claims about business deals that don't match the written records. This isn't a one-time thing or an occasional slip. It's a pattern that shows up repeatedly across multiple legal proceedings. Judges have noticed this pattern, and they haven't been shy about expressing skepticism. In various proceedings over the years, judges have questioned Trump's credibility, noted discrepancies in his testimony, and imposed sanctions when they found he was playing games with the truth. The civil fraud case judge found that Trump and his organization had engaged in persistent fraud. That wasn't a finding of perjury specifically, but it was a finding that the financial statements at the center of the case were deliberately misleading. When your CFO plead guilty to lying under oath about those same financial statements, it starts to paint a pretty clear picture. The legal exposure here is serious, and I want to make sure people understand exactly what perjury means as a potential charge. Perjury is a felony in both federal and state courts. If you're convicted of perjury, you can face years in prison, not months, years. Unlike some crimes that might result in fines or probation, perjury is treated seriously because it strikes at the integrity of the entire legal system. Courts can't function if people lie under oath. Judges can't make fair decisions if witnesses aren't telling the truth. So when prosecutors go after perjury, they're not just punishing a specific lie. They're defending the whole concept of sworn testimony. For Trump personally, the perjury question creates a unique kind of danger. His other legal problems, the federal cases, the state indictments, even the New York conviction, all involve complex legal questions about intent and official acts and what exactly constitutes criminal conduct. Smart lawyers can argue about those things, but perjury is clean and simple. Either you told the truth under oath or you didn't. Either your sworn statements match the documentary evidence or they don't. There's not a lot of room for creative legal arguments when you're caught in a clear lie under oath. The culture of lying that Weisselberg's plea reveals is also important for understanding the broader Trump picture. This wasn't one rogue employee deciding on his own to commit perjury. This was the CFO, one of the most senior people in the organization, lying under oath specifically to protect Trump's inflated wealth story. That suggests the lying wasn't an aberration, but a feature of how the organization operated. If the CFO felt comfortable committing perjury to boost Trump's image, what does that tell you about the organizational culture? What does it tell you about what Trump expected from his top employees? Legal experts have been warning that if prosecutors decide to seriously pursue perjury charges against Trump himself based on his sworn testimony, they would have plenty of material to work with. The depositions where he contradicted documents, the trial testimony where he made claims that didn't match the evidence, the pattern of overstating his wealth and understating his knowledge of problematic conduct. All of that is sitting in court records waiting to be used. The question is whether prosecutors will make the decision to go there and whether they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump knowingly lied rather than just being mistaken or exaggerating. The intersection with Trump's other legal problems makes this even more significant. He's already a convicted felon from the New York hush money case. He's facing ongoing appeals and potential exposure in multiple other matters. His CFO has now pleaded guilty to perjury. The walls are closing in from every direction. And at the center of all of it is this question of whether anything Trump says under oath can actually be trusted. When you have a defendant whose own CFO admits he committed crimes by lying in court to protect the boss, you're dealing with something that goes beyond normal legal jeopardy. You're dealing with a fundamental credibility problem that taints everything. All right, so let's bring this all together and talk about what it means for Trump going forward, because the perjury situation creates a very specific kind of danger that's different from his other legal problems.